Witches have been beguiling audiences basically ever since there have been stories. Strange, brilliant women with supernatural powers who often live outside of society. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but they always captivate our attention. There have been countless iconic witches in movies, TVs, comic books, video games, and more over the decades, hell, centuries. And now the Great Pop Culture Debate podcast wants to light the black candle and summon the best pop culture witch of all time. My back hasn't been the same since somebody dropped that house on me, and the bitch stole my fabulous shoes, too. I'm your host, Eric Rezsnyak. Please welcome my panel for this episode. He's cooking up something spicy in his easy-bake coven. It's Gary Jackson.
You know exactly who I am and what I'm capable of, just like I know exactly who you are.
You put a spell on me, Gary. Welcome back.
Hey.
She's here to frolic, wear costumes, and run amok. It's Joelle Boedecker.
Amok, amok, amok.
Well, good luck finding that virgin for the Black Flame Candle in 2022, baby. And finally, our last panelist is just like any modern woman trying to have it all. She just wishes she had more time to seek out the dark forces and join their hellish crusade. It's Kate Racculia.
Don't torture yourself, Eric. That's my job.
Well, usually I pay extra for that service, but I'll take it.
Also, listeners, literally my cat Gomez is trying to hop up in my lap right now.
And he's a black cat. He's a tuxedo cat.
I'm a black cat too.
See? We're all witches this episode.
Witch energy.
Energy. BWE. So how does this work? We made a poll of just about every major pop culture witch we could think of. Nearly 70 people took the poll. We tallied the votes and added the top vote getters to a bracket. Now we argue about it and insult each other all for your amusement. Want to play along at home? You can. Go to greatpopculturedebate.com and find the polls and brackets tab. There you'll find the listener bracket for this and every episode of our little show. Make a copy for yourself, fill it out, and see if your picks match up with ours. Before we start, I do want to ask our panelists which witches they were surprised did not make the top 16. We'll get to that in a second. But I also want to make a disclaimer. This episode is for our Halloween special. But I do know that witches and Wiccan is something that some people take very seriously. And I do wanted to say on behalf of everybody on this podcast, I hope nobody is offended by anything we're talking about here. I think I can speak for all of us when I say we respect Wiccan culture. We respect witches in general. We're actually here to celebrate witch depictions in pop culture. Some of them may be more offensive than others to people who practice that religion, but it's in the spirit of celebration. Is that fair for the people on the panel?
Yes. Revered.
Absolutely.
Revered, exactly. So with that being said, I want to ask the panel, who are people that you were surprised didn't make the top 16? Gary, your intro line references Marie Laveau from American Horror Story Coven. Was that one that you were shocked didn't make it?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. My God. Like, shocked is an understatement, Eric. Panel, Marie Laveau, Angela Bassett as Marie Laveau.
Iconic drink.
Iconic. What? I'm stunned. I have questions and I need answers.
Yeah, I have which questions and I need which answers. And seriously, like, she's amazing, but nobody from American Horror Story Coven. I think the only one that actually made the top 16 and goes out with a unanimous decision around one, spoiler, was Stevie Nicks, which is hilarious. I mean, I'm glad she made it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm always here for Stevie Nicks on this podcast or any podcast. But like, the fact that none of the other Coven girls are on here is shocking because
split the vote
to Miss Bassett, it could be a split the vote. But like, you don't have Fiona Good, who's played by Jessica Lange. You don't have Balenciaga, Myrtle Snow. You don't have Madison Montgomery, who gave us surprise bitch that you thought the last of me. Like, come on.
Yes.
Come on.
That was gagged.
And Queenie, who's also an icon. Ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Joelle, well, who are you surprised didn't make the top 16?
Okay, I have 3.
Good.
We will start with my number one all-time beloved teen witch. She did not even make the top 32. I want to write letters to everyone that didn't vote for her in the top 32.
And I think we should clarify, you mean teen witch, not a witch who is a teen, like actual teen witch.
The official teen witch, Louise, the teen witch, the one and only. If they remake the movie, it doesn't count. We are talking about Blake Lively's sister, Robin. We are talking about teen witch.
And I will say that I recently saw Robin Lively on a commercial for Mint Mobile, which is run by Ryan Reynolds, who is her brother-in-law. And Robin Lively looks amazing, ladies and gentlemen. She may actually be a witch. Just putting that out.
Okay. Whatever spell she cast all the way back in the 80s, it's working.
I'll have what she's having.
My other ones, we have Morbid of Destiny. This is just a shout out to my Babysitters Club friends. The Babysitter's little sister, Morbid of Destiny, has been haunting little children for ages and ages and ages. She did make the top 32, but I guess she wasn't really actually a witch. Maybe that's the problem. Or was she? And then as much as I love them, maybe they're just not effective enough. We'll find out in the second movie, but not a Sanderson sister made the top 16. But they did make the top 32, two of them. So I was happy to see them, but they didn't make the top 16. So we won't be talking about them much today, but they made our opening conversation. And I am talking about Hocus Pocus.
Yes, and I do think that's one that I think people listening to this right now might be like throwing their phones at their windshield, which you should not do.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I looked and it came down to the matchups. I think they could have made it had it come down to different matchups, but
agreed.
Each and every one of those matchups, they had no chance.
and it's one of those things where if this was a full episode, well, actually, if it was a full episode, they still would have went out in round one, so you wouldn't have heard them. We would have talked about them. Yeah. I do think after Hocus Pocus 2 comes out this Halloween, I'm curious to see if they have a bump in popularity. I think they will. I mean, the nostalgia factor for like millennials with these characters is through the charts. So
I mean, I'm looking at them right now. I have all three Funko Pops staring at me, and they are angry.
I would be angry too. Right? Like I killed a virgin for this.
The black candle is getting lit. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
Exactly. Kate, how about you?
So I actually, and I apologize if some of these were in there and I missed them. The Blair Witch, did the Blair Witch get any love?
It didn't, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is that like she is just an idea. We never see her, right? Like she's not really ever personified, but I can't see people standing in corner quietly in a room without getting terrified.
Had this poll been run 21 years ago, absolutely that would have made the top 32.
Exactly.
And I think the fact that we never saw her actually is what makes her so scary.
Exactly. Yeah, she's just a legend. Turning to more animated, Madam Mim. Love my Madam Mim from The Sword and the Stone. And Yubaba from Spirited Away. Absolutely fantastic, iconic animated witches. And I want to give a little love to Mildred Hubble, portrayed by Fairuza Balk in the HBO 80s kids animated The Worst Witch, or not animated, The Worst Witch. She's a terrible witch, but she has an adorable little cat, and it's Fairuza Balk. I think it's actually either right before or right after she goes to do Return to Oz. So she is absolutely perfect in it, and it is extremely charming. And what's her face is in it too. Oh my God, what's her name? Hold on. Iconic.
I know Tim Curry's in it.
The Tim Curry, like if listeners, if you have not ever seen Anything Can Happen on Halloween, Tim Curry's acid trip of a music video in the middle of The Worst Witch, just do yourself a favor. You will never be the same.
The visuals of that show were unforgettable, but it's because she was the worst little witch that she probably never would have made it through this bracket anyway.
That's true. She was iconic. And Anything Can Happen on
makes me realize
Halloween. It's so bad.
We need to do a best Tim Curry films debate. We absolutely need to. So I just realized that.
I might just go up on my Patreon tier to make that the episode that I force people to do.
Kate, do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Actually, no, don't. Like, if you're listening, you should become a top tier Patreon, because then you get to literally determine an episode that we record. You pick the panel, you pick the topic, and you join us on the episode. So if you want to do it to best Tim Curry, you come and see me with your $25 a month for Patreon. You get good stuff too. Thank you, Kate. Those are all great picks. I have a couple that I wanted to talk to. I was surprised that neither set of the Charmed sisters made it.
That was a
not
surprise.
one. Like not OG original Power of Three plus Paige or the reboot on the WB. Not one of them made it, which shocked me. I was bummed but not surprised that none of the Witches of Eastwick made it. That is a great movie.
Yeah.
I just don't think that it's well remembered.
No, it's not kind of, yeah.
It hasn't had a resurgence. It needs to come back. Someone needs to figure out how to make that pop out again.
I think there was a TV version of it on maybe Lifetime
There've
a
been
couple years ago.
I think. I feel like what's his face, the Canadian dude who was in Men with Brooms and Slings and Arrows. What's his name? Paul something.
Oh, right.
He was like the devil in it.
Did you just mention Men with Brooms?
Yeah, I did.
It is a witch bracket, so that's appropriate.
Really movie?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I love you so much right now.
Paul Gross. He was also in Due North. Yes, Paul Gross love. He plays Satan in that show.
Perfect. But I do wish that there were one of the Witches of East would get made it because they're great characters. And then the other that I will mention is, and I don't even know how this would have ended up on the bracket, but if you do enjoy scary witch stories and you enjoy comic books, I highly recommend Witches, Wytches by Scott Snyder. It came out a few years ago. It is terrifying. It is like one of these scary. It made me upset to read it when I was reading it. Like a comic book actually scared me to the point where I was like, that is dark-sided. I can never look at that again. But it was so good. And like, if you really like the scarier witch stuff and are like looking for like folkloric witch stuff, that's a good one. And then of course the goat from The Witch, the film The Witch, Black Peter, is that his name? The goat's name?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the greatest of all time.
The Vivitch, yes. What an icon. Loved him. So those are just some of the ones that were upset we did not make it, but let's get into the actual top 16 and get into these debates. First, a unanimous decision for our ultimate number 1 seed, Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter series, who dispelled 5 seed Endora from Bewitched. I just want to give a shout out to Endora for a lifetime achievement in both caftans and eye makeup. Absolutely. To die for. She did not need many magic to look glamorous, ladies and gentlemen. Next, in a battle of witches gone bad, it's 3 seed The Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz versus 7 seed Bellatrix Lestrange from the Harry Potter series. Gary, break into Azkaban and free Bellatrix for round 2. I will explain why it's not easy being green, but the Wicked Witch never, ever does anything nice and easy. Take it away, Gary.
So I love that this category is bad girls, basically. Gone bad, because I am a fan of all the bad witches, allegedly. So, one, why I think that Bellatrix is obviously going to win this round is she is second in command to the Lord Voldemort. Like, that alone right there, like, she is the most powerful bad witch on that side of the planet, okay? Some things I did like what I love about her and just her, she's chaotic. And I think that she carries this fear. She's ruthless. Harry's scared of her. Everyone's afraid of her because she can't be tamed. And the only person that can tame her is Lord. I love that she dabbles in dark arts, and her dueling capabilities is unmatched. She has taken out and murdered so many of the other characters in the Harry Potter series. And she loves torture. Like she gets off on killing people and torturing people and kidnapping people. And I think that makes her a phenomenal witch, one, but two, I think she is highly intelligent. It's like a cat and mouse game with her when she's like pursuing someone. And she's everything.
There is a real like malice to her that is wonderful to behold and terrifying, right?
Yes.
Am I correct that her wand, I feel like I've seen it in the Harry Potter world, is like weird and crooked? Am I right about that?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, 'cause she holds it in a certain way with like one finger, I believe.
And like hats off to Helena Bonham Carter. Nobody else could play that. Nobody else.
No one else would have. Yeah, no one else would have made that right.
I assume that even when J.K. Rowling, who at this point can be referred to as she who must not be named, was creating the character
in this house.
Yeah, she was just sitting there and be like, so it's going to be Helena Bonham Carter, like literally just writing it. Like,
when she was drawing up that character, it was Helena Bonham Carter in her head.
Just Helena Bonham Carter, but she's got a wand and she's just killing people. Like, and I'm down for that, right? But I'm here to talk about the Wicked Witch of the West. And in my opinion, I think the Wicked Witch is one of the first scary witches most kids are introduced to. Whether it's in the Oz books or the movie, I think she's probably one of the most quintessential witches in all of American pop culture. She's now over 100 years old in book form and just shy of 90 in film. And to me, which is crazy, right?
Wow.
I don't know if kids today still read the Oz books, but they do have graphic novel adaptations, by the way, which are beautiful. But I assume kids are still watching the movie. Does anyone know? Like, nobody on this podcast has children.
No.
Mm-mm.
But I think they are. And it's just like her visage is such a part of what witches are, quote unquote, in pop culture.
And like, that's part of my argument is I don't know if when L. Frank Baum, also he shall not be named, because he, like, if you ever look into the history of L. Frank Baum, he was really messed up, like seriously racist.
This is not with the like the ABC Family movie where John Ritter played L. Frank Baum that was on in the early 90s. And it lied to me. Liza Minnelli.
Look it up. He was a very, very angry man. But I don't know if he's the one who came up with those descriptions, or those descriptions kind of already existed in American pop culture at that point. But like the pointy hat, the green skin, the like hands always in claws, the cackle, to me, like you see them everywhere associated with generic witches. And that came, or I'm assuming the Wicked Witch had a huge part in cementing that in American pop culture. So I think you cannot deny her like progenitor status here. She's also genuinely terrifying. As a child, I was scared of her, but now I look at her and I think she doesn't care much for children. She knows how to make an entrance. She calls all the fucking shots, and she dresses exclusively in black. What a chic life icon, right?
She's a gay.
Yeah, she's a gay. She's basically what Karl Lagerfeld wishes he was. And for those reasons, she has to advance. So, Kate, where are you on this?
Bellatrix is a badass. HBC is an icon, but like you cannot step to the Wicked Witch of the West. Wicked Witch of the West.
HBC is HBC, but the Wicked Witch of the West is the HBIC, the head bitch in charge. That's what I'm saying. Joelle?
I did just want to add, Eric, you should know the history as well as I do, because at the Salem Witch Museum, they definitely explain that the Wicked Witch of the West did sort of start this green face, the long crooked nose, black hat, the whole thing. Like this was like the design of witches for 100 years was because of that depiction. So
yeah,
if we're talking about iconic, and if that's what we're deciding is the factor here, then yes, like that is the iconic witch. But is that the best witch? Like, is she the most effective witch? Can she just be melted by water? Whereas it took a whole bunch of witches, including a very powerful witch that was very angry to finally take her down. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna. Go ahead.
We'll get there. There's a lot of runway here to talk through. A lot of different witches we're gonna get through, but I don't think that she's all that scary when you realize what took her down in the end.
I guess I never thought I would do this. I'm going to take a page out of Donald Trump's handbook and say, I like witches who don't get captured. And so for that reason, I can't vote for Bellatrix here.
Interesting.
No, but so you're sticking with Bellatrix.
It's funny when it wasn't Bellatrix against the Wicked Witch, she had my vote entirely. But now that Bellatrix is up against the Wicked Witch, I'm really split on this one. Yeah, it's Bellatrix for me.
Okay. It's still 3-1 in favor of the Wicked Witch, though. I believe. Oh, wait, are we tied?
Wait, Gary had Bellatrix, right?
Gary had Bellatrix too. Okay, so we're tied.
Who's the higher seed?
Wicked Witch is a 3 seed. Bellatrix is a 7 seed.
That makes sense.
Oh,
So the Wicked Witch will move on.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Had to put up the fight.
You did a great job. Both of you did an excellent job repping for her. Next, most of the panel wants to advance Disney baddie Maleficent, a 4 seed, but I see the softer side of Sears and witchcraft in 1 seed, Willow Rosenberg from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I always loved that dig. It was such a read. Joelle, why should we keep dragging Maleficent to round 2? I will explain why, for my generation, Willow was the true chosen one. Joelle, you go first.
Oh, Maleficent, our sweet, sweet dragon. Maleficent, that's her name, Maleficent. My favorite thing about Maleficent goes back to our friend Amy Pilot and what she said about her in the Villains podcast. She just wanted to be invited to a party.
Yeah.
And and she wasn't invited to a party, and the revenge went on and on and on for a couple decades, if not longer.
We love a petty icon on this podcast.
Frankly. The more and more I read about her, the more I realized just how vicious, how evil, how dark this villain really is. Someone said she has all the powers of hell as part of her her toolkit. She has the ability to shapeshift into a large purple dragon. She has lightning projection, divination, teleportation, summoning of frost storms, conjuring forest thorns, conjuring of spinning wheels and spindles, as you might know, and she can fly. But mostly she's just vengeful bitch. Yeah. And she has a really great headpiece. Let's not forget about that.
And a great...
How's your headpiece?
No complaints. No complaints.
No complaints. Yeah. What were you saying, Kate? Before
she
I
has an
interrupted
incredible staff that when she walks around and she like it hits the ground, it makes that incredible noise. She's just like, she is the drama, she is the legend, and she is the moment always.
She is. She is. And
I
that's
also
the thing.
like that in one description, she's a malevolent fairy rather than a witch, which I thought was great. She's also a witch.
Listen, I love her, and I think she's great. She is the drama. You know that meme, am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. Maleficent is the drama, mama.
She's not. She knows. She doesn't question it. And she's
yeah.
fully acceptant of her drama. She knows what she is.
And I love that for her. I'm here to talk about Willow, and I do think that she's a great entry on this list because she touches both the light and the dark sides of witchcraft. And I think that's important, right? Because like for the bulk of her Buffy career, she exemplified the best elements of pop culture witchdom, assisting her in kicking numerous asses for 7 seasons with her increasingly powerful magic. Because let's not forget, like she started as just like part of the Scooby Gang, sitting in the library, like figuring out how to levitate shit. And then by like season 6, she literally almost brings about the apocalypse. Like
she raises the dead.
She knows how to get it done. That's someone who you know, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. How do you bring about the apocalypse? Willow knows. She's got it. But it also shows us what happens when witches lose control, as she does after the senseless killing of her partner Tara and her descent into Dark Willow, who very nearly brings about the end of the world. Comic readers will understand that whole plotline very much mirrors what happens with Jean Grey in the X-Men comics. It's not a huge leap. However, it's still super compelling. And what I love about Willow overall, and this is true of the Dark Willow stuff, but also, as Joelle mentioned, when she brings Buffy back from the dead, kind of a big deal, is that magic has a price, right? And that's something that a lot of these witches don't have on this bracket. They're just like casting spells, doing magic, woo. And with Willow, like when she does major stuff like that, there are repercussions, very real repercussions. Like she brings Buffy back, cool, except Buffy was literally in heaven enjoying her reward for years of killing monsters, and Willow brings her back and she's like,
Here.
what did you do? Like, this is really messed up. I am
Now
screwed.
I have to sing about it.
Right. With some great songs. And by the way, it is notable that Willow is the only person who, I think she gets one line in the entire musical episode. And the line is, I think my line's mostly filler. That's her, like, the one Willow line. But like, it's kind of the witch in Into the Woods tells us, wishes come true, not free. Willow shows us the price of magic. And I think that's actually a really cool thing to reference in this bracket. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it. Kate, where are you on this one?
I have to give it to Maleficent, but like Willow, Allison Hannigan, just like such an icon drink of late 90s, early aughts TV. And yeah, I feel like her, like the way like Willow like comes out and is like a queer icon on TV, but then unfortunately the stuff with Tara and the like bury your gays trope is real unfortunate, right? Like, and I feel like there's kind of diminishing returns on the whole of the arc, but like Willow, there weren't witches like Willow. There weren't characters like Willow on TV before Willow.
Yeah.
And it's really important. Yep.
So true. Gary, where are you?
I fall with my petty queen, my vengeful queen, Maleficent. She kidnapped and gaslit that girl. That's a true witch right there.
This is the thing. I can't even be mad. I can't be mad about Maleficent advancing.
The part
right?
where she like tells like just trolls Philip, and she's like, "Look at you riding to her all proud," and like it's just like just
gaslit them.
It's so good.
So good. Yeah, I'm not mad about it. I feel like I said everything I could for Willow, but Maleficent will increase. Okay, will advance to round 2. Next in a battle of polar opposites, it's chipper magical housewife Samantha Stevens from Bewitched, a 6 seed, up against decidedly surly Nancy Downs from The Craft, a 7 seed. Kate, wiggle your nose and magic Samantha into round 2. Gary, bind Nancy's chances of advance. I'm going to have Gary go first.
Oh, so you see the trend? All the dark girls. I love it. What I love about Nancy is that practice makes perfect, and she practiced that dark arts and she perfected it, and then she became psychotic even more than what she was. And what I really do love about her is that like the powers that she possessed, like were incredible. She's a murderer. She physically, psychologically abusive, and she practiced dark magic, and so I give her my vote just because she's iconic, and who doesn't want to be a Nancy Downs? So
she is iconic.
She
and
is.
I mean, when did The Craft come out? I'm going to say mid 90s.
95 maybe, somewhere around
95.
there. 95, 96.
So it would have been around the time Buffy was on, but I don't think Willow had become like the witch that she became at that point. Like Nancy was, in my opinion, the defining witch of Gen X.
Yeah, May 1996. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yeah. I feel like she's like the defining grunge witch, and there's not another one on this on this bracket like her. But you want to talk about definitive witches? Take it away, Kate. It's you and Samantha Stevens.
I do love to imagine Samantha Stevens and Nancy Down just like sitting down across from a table, across from each other at a table, and being like, "Okay."
Tell me about your journey.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they are both in their ways, in the ways that like, I'm going to drop a little nerdery, in the ways that like witches in literature and pop culture are coded ways to talk about feminism, sexuality, like all these ways. Both Nancy and Samantha Stevens are ways talking about like gender, like misogyny and stuff, right? And power, like the power of women. So Samantha Stevens, like there's an argument to be made that like the entire concept of WandaVision as a TV show comes from her. Like,
Totally.
right? Like
100%.
Totally.
she is TV's OG greatest witch. She's quite powerful. Her mastery and her competence is kind of the backbone of the show, right? Which ends up being her like trying to hide who she truly is. It drives the plot of so much of this. And I actually came across Make It Gay, this very interesting quote on Wikipedia today in a 1992 interview. Elizabeth Montgomery was asked if the show was an allegory about closeted homosexuality. She answered, "Don't think that didn't enter our minds at the time. We talked about it on the set, certainly not in production meetings, that this was about people not being allowed to be what they really are. If you think about it, Bewitched is about repression in general and all the frustration and trouble it can cause." And it's like an iconic, was it 50s, 60s, 60s, because it's in color.
64. Yeah.
Like goofy sitcom where she is a witch who's probably hundreds of years old, and she decides to like marry a mortal because she wants to. It's her choice. And the way that I like sort of voted on stuff, or like my rubric, was how influential, how iconic are they, how powerful are they, and what kind of accessories do they have? And Samantha has, her accessory is Endora, her whole family, Uncle Arthur, and literally 2 husbands, and no one noticed when she changed them. So that is my argument.
She swapped out one dick for another.
She did. Yep. She did. She was like, I want to try some new dick. And they were like, sure, here's another dick.
And I mean, listen, you want to talk about a gay icon. What's gayer than being like, I want to try a new dick? Yeah. So give it up for Samantha. All right, Joelle, where are you on this one?
So frustrating because
it is, yeah.
Skill for skill, these two are equally matched. I literally, so I made my spreadsheet, and in this spreadsheet, like they both are, they both have levitation. They both have teleportation. They both have, I'm just looking at my list. There's like manipulation of the things around them, projections. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but the point is, like, skill for skill, these two are equal. Samantha Stevens has 400 years on Nancy. There is that. But iconic wise, Nancy Downs is the 90s witch. Yeah. Samantha Stevens is the 60s witch. For generations, like, these two represent the witches for each generation, I think. It's tough. It's really
tough. Yeah.
In my bracket, Nancy won, but Kate made a really compelling argument. If we're going with like revenge versus like she only used it for good and to make a point, and it's so tough. I don't have an answer yet, Eric. I'm just filling for time right now.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know what I had going forward initially, but I would give it to Samantha. Because I like the idea that like it was ultimately an allegory about repression, which I think is super interesting and relevant to witches in general. Yeah. But also, only one of these two amazing women have a statue in Salem, Massachusetts.
And I am posing with her in that statue.
Exactly.
Hey, you actually like made me think about my choice. I was like, well, damn, that was like compelling. Like, but I'm stuck too.
Nancy's incredible.
I might go with history.
Nancy is
like Samantha Stevens ran, so all of the other witches could follow or whatever. What's the I don't know
fly in their brooms.
And you think too, like she's, because like you have her, right? She's this like powerful magical woman in the 60s, a time of like great gender like revolution, and versus someone like Jeannie, right? Like who's completely subservient to her master. Like Samantha has the power in that relationship, and it's a very like sly, subversive way to talk about gendered power without it being like it is subversive. The subversion comes from it being very funny and very light and very comic, and actually it's like, no, women are like thousands of years old and are like more powerful than anyone would ever want to accept, but they're here.
Yeah.
I think why I'm still like I fall still is Sam already like had her powers. We got to see Nancy gain like her magic for her own betterment, and she used it whichever way she felt, for good and for evil. And we got to see that happen. We knew why it was happening. So I think the argument of like there's an undertone and understory for queer like life, but I like that's why I'm sticking with Nancy for me.
Nancy's a tragedy. She's a gut punch, right?
Yes.
Well, and the other thing about Nancy is that she was, stopped by her own coven. Like she couldn't do things without the other women, and Samantha can work alone. She doesn't actually need anyone else. So I think she's a little bit more powerful if I'm doing a comparison there. that was one of the things I just thought of, that like individually, I think Samantha has that edge.
Well, I have one for Nancy with Gary. I have one for Samantha with Kate. Joelle, do you have a vote?
Samantha, I'm going with Samantha.
Okay, I'm going to go with Samantha as well. Nancy's great, and you did a good job arguing for Gary. But unfortunately, in this one, Samantha's going to edge her out. Next, it's a crone-off between 1 seed Minerva McGonagall from the Harry Potter universe and 5 seed Agatha Harkness from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Gary, explain why you're a member of the House of Harkness. Joelle, transmogrify Professor McGonagall into a quarterfinalist. And I'm going to have Joelle go first.
Transmogrify, that's a word. So you would think our dowager countess could isn't that powerful, but Minerva McGonagall has quite the history, and I just read about it this week, because turns out Hogwarts a History has quite the history in it. I didn't read it myself, I read the fandom article about it. Minerva McGonagall has so much history, it's ridiculous. She is an incredibly powerful wizard. As we learned in the very first book and movie, she is an animagus. She can turn into a cat. It's awesome. She worked her stinking little butt off, and we learned that about Hermione as well, that from reading and training and practice, it makes you a really powerful wizard. She can out battle, out conjure, out charm just about any wizard, out duel. That brought to they won the Wizarding Wars over and over again. She protected Hogwarts over and over and over again. She taught thousands, hundreds. I don't know how many students went to Hogwarts during her time. But
it's
she
very
taught
difficult to tell.
Lots and lots of students. How old is she even? Who can know? But yeah, she taught so many different students over the years to protect the good of the school. And for that alone, I think she's worthy of whatchamacallit?
Advancing,
thank you.
It's okay.
Worthy of whatchamacalliting.
Gary, talk to me about Agatha Harkness.
Oh my gosh. So we love a nosy witch too. She was so nosy, but I think what makes her the most powerful witch is that her ability to manipulate. She manipulated Wanda, then the entire series of the show as well. She manipulated the entire town. It was all under her control. And the fact that we, as an audience, just for the show's sake, did not know that it was her. Like, she played a trick on us as well. And I think that alone right there, her manipulation skills, just makes her a threat. But she predates every known human civilization. And I believe like how she gets her power is from her wisdom and through her age. And so I think that the way that her intelligence and her ability to like absorb magic and things like that, I think really, really makes Agatha a threat.
And to clarify, you're using both the comic origin for her as well as the like WandaVision origin,
yeah, in
right?
WandaVision, yes.
Yeah. Because the WandaVision origin is she's like a Salem witch, and that's where it all comes from.
Yep.
Whereas in the comic origin, you're right, she's much more ancient.
Yeah, and I think just even looking at both of them, I think obviously the pull across is like her ability to like brainwash, and she makes you believe something that's really not there. But in the show and WandaVision, the fact that she had this entire town under her control, but mainly because she's nosy and wanted to be in everyone's business. But I think Agatha is a threat, and I think her ability to be under the radar is something that is definitely worth discussing.
And that is true for her in pretty much any version. Agatha's involved in Fantastic Four plotline. She's Franklin's nanny. She's involved in the Avengers stuff with Scarlet Witch, obviously. She's been involved in a lot of different elements of the Marvel Universe, and she's always under the radar. You're right. She's never the threat, even if she is, in fact, a threat, because she's gone between both villain and hero over time. So she's a super interesting character. And I do think in terms of traditional depictions of witches as kind of being, I mean, I guess that's true for McGonagall too. I actually think that's great that they're kind of paired up together, because McGonagall is just like the lawful good version, and whereas Agatha is more like chaotic neutral, I would guess, on the alignment chart. Kate, where are you on this one?
I actually forget which way I voted, and so I'm looking at my rubric. They're both like iconic in their ways, although I do think of McGonagall as like a static or like a supporting player in the Potterverse. And Agatha is much more active. I've only seen the TV show, but she's much more active in comics and TV. They're both extremely powerful. And in terms of accessories, Agatha has a song.
She does have a song.
She has a song. And also just like the way that burst into pop culture. McGonagall has never had a moment like that, right? Where everyone was like, it was Agatha all along. Like, people just lost.
If someone broke into a song about McGonagall, I would be shocked.
Right? People lost their goddamn minds, and it was so fun. So I think I gotta give it to Agatha.
I do like your rubric.
Thank you.
And I have to, like, I don't remember how I voted on this one either initially, but listening to the arguments, I think I'm giving it to Agatha as well, which I think is going to piss off a lot of our listeners, because they're like, yeah, I mean, first of all, McGonagall is a 1 seed, right? But I also look at it and I think overall the Harry Potter universe had quite a lot of representation on this bracket.
Yeah,
perhaps
there's
too much.
Perhaps too much. And I think there's at least one Harry Potter character who's going to sail through probably to the final 2. And for that reason, I don't feel so bad about bouncing McGonagall, even though we're going to have one other clearly Marvel Cinematic Universe witch in this matchup. But I think that Agatha's just more interesting, no matter if you're looking at the Catherine Hahn version on TV or like the old ass woman who's been around, like part of the Salem 7, like since the 1960s in the comics. She's really a fascinating supporting character. So I'm giving it to Agatha as well. So she will be advancing to round 2. Next up, let's not make it a thing, but I believe the panel is currently unanimous in advancing 2-seed Morticia Addams over 6-seed Aunt Zelda from Sabrina the Teenaged Witch, who, by the way, is not to be confused with Zelda Spellman from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, who we had already knocked out of the competition before we started doing this
was amazing
episode.
Was Zelda versus Zelda, and we didn't even have to argue it.
Yeah.
I really was looking forward to arguing that.
I know it sucks, because just so everybody knows, again, I was fascinated. None of the Charmed girls made it, but like all of the Sabrina and Zelda and what's the other aunt's name?
Hilda.
Thank you. Yeah. Both versions of those all made the top 32, which I thought was fascinating. But we are. Does anyone disagree? We're moving Morticia Addams unanimously onto round 2.
I don't necessarily disagree, because I don't particularly care for Aunt Zelda, but is Morticia Addams even a witch?
This is a complicated question. I have thoughts, but yes.
I look forward to talking about it in the next round. I'm fine with this. We'll talk about it, but yeah.
I believe personally she absolutely counts as a witch, even though she may not have like quote unquote supernatural powers. She worships the dark forces.
And she's iconically dressed, so that counts. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Let's get into it, but later.
Yep. So that's we'll save that for round 2.
We're advancing her. It's wonderful. Look at her just sailing on through.
I love it. Next, because it's a witch bracket and magic is unpredictable, our next matchup sees 1-seed Ursula from The Little Mermaid up against 4-seed Molly Weasley from the Harry Potter universe. And Joelle has decided to pull double toil and trouble by arguing for both of them. So, Joelle, I have just one piece of advice for you, and this will be like my 4th time using this reference on this podcast. Don't underestimate the importance of body language. Literally, I think that's the 4th time I've done it, including the 2nd time this season. Joelle, make your arguments.
Oh my God, it's my time to shine, guys. Oh, my dear Molly Weasley. We'll go with her first. She is a very powerful wizard, witch, whatever. She's a witch, not a wizard. She is. So this is Molly Weasley versus Ursula. So this is the good versus the dark, the light versus the dark. Molly is very powerful. She knows how to charm anything she comes in contact with. If the first time we meet her, she is charmed like well, maybe not the first time, the second time you meet her in her domain, her home, she has charmed an entire kitchen full of gadgets, including a clock, including everything. It is incredibly impressive. Well, we know love motivates her because she killed the fuck out of Bellatrix Lestrange after watching her son die, watching Bellatrix nearly kill Ginny Weasley. She murdered the fuck out of Bellatrix, and I have never cheered so loud while reading a book in my life. It was a wonderful thing. And for no other reason other than that, I love Molly Weasley, but she's just a wonderful protector, and she took in child after child into her home. She was the adopted mother of both Harry and, frankly, Hermione as well. And so she's just a beloved character. She's played so wonderfully by what's her name?
Julie.
Something.
Julie Walters.
Julie Walters. Oh man, I had it written down and I lost it. She's just great. Anyway, love her to pieces. But I also am here to defend Ursula. By the way, we're going to go with the full-figured witch against the full-figured witch. And I also am here for that. That. It's wonderful. I hate that these two are up against each other because they should both go all the way in this bracket.
Body positivity in the witch universe. We're here for it.
Here for it. And let's just start with that because Ursula, modeled after Divine.
Yes.
Oh my God. One of the greatest things when I learned about that, I was like, well, that's wonderful. And that makes sense. And that makes Ursula a powerhouse already. Ursula has so much more backstory than I ever gave her credit for. If you have ever watched the musical, there's some explanation on why Ursula is just a angry, bitter, underwater sea witch. Turns out Ursula and King Triton are siblings. Did we know this?
What?
No. It's scandalo.
Right? They were brother and sister, and they were both given pieces of the magic, if you will, when their parents passed away or whatever. And King Triton was like, well, you went to the dark side, so I'm going to banish you forever, and I'm going to go to the light side and rule the kingdom. And that's why our friend Ursula is so vengeful and hates her brother and wants to take over the kingdom. And doesn't that make more sense after knowing that?
Mm-hmm.
And don't you kind of feel for Ursula after knowing that? And don't you kind of go, well, now I get it. Not that you didn't already, because Ursula is badass. Ursula controls a couple eels, but I'm sure she controls a whole lot more because she runs her own freaking business. She signs her own contracts, puts her whole legal department together.
Yep.
She's
a businesswoman.
She's a businesswoman. She makes sure that people continue and follow through on their contracts, or she turns them into little polyps and puts them, in her little, walkway to her little area. And
remember sea monkeys? I always thought of them as like sea monkeys gone bad.
Exactly. And she reminds them every day, you didn't follow through on your contract. Sorry. Yeah. She's just doing business. She's just a ruthless businesswoman at the end of the day. She has incredible power, black magic, shape-shifting, size alteration, weather manipulation, and absorbing souls. Just to name a few skills. Superhuman strength as well. And stealing voices, but that's obviously we know about that.
And being effortlessly fabulous.
And she's half woman, half octopus, which is very interesting given that everyone around her and her own brother is a mer person. Somehow she became this other creature. So I don't know what her parents were doing, but no judgment.
I'm curious if she was always an octopus or if that was a secondary mutation.
That could have been a mutation with the dark magic. And she was like, I know how to scare the hell out of my family. Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
I do too. The secret origin of Ursula.
That is my defense for both of these wonderful, full-figured, beautiful witch ladies.
I love it. And snaps to Joelle for our first ever personal showdown, yourself versus yourself in the great pop culture debate.
I split my brain in half and I just attacked it.
I love it. Gary, where are you on this?
I think I'm Ursula. Thank you, Joelle. That was really nice.
Kate?
I am also Ursula. She is absolutely spectacular and impossible to overstate her influence on Disney villainy. before and after. Like, it's Maleficent and Ursula for me. That's it.
Yeah.
I'd Scar. I like Scar.
To me, like, listen, props to Molly Weasley. She's a great mom.
Yes.
And I cheered as you did when she murdered the fuck out of Bellatrix.
Yes, so good.
Great moment. It's a great moment and like so earned.
It's like Molly versus Bellatrix is the same as Ripley versus the Alien Queen.
Yes. Get away from her,
energy.
you bitch. Yeah, totally. But like, come on, it's Ursula. It is always Ursula. Yep. She had me at hello. Like I'm always going to be Team Sea Witch. Like that's where it is. So
it's okay. I'm also Ursula.
Great. So we're unanimous, and Ursula uses her octopus arms to climb into round 2. Finally, in round 1, the bulk of the panel continues to see red for 3-seed Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Kate wants to give the green light to Elphaba from Wicked, a 2-seed. Kate, why should Elphaba defy the odds the way she defies gravity? Speaking of odds, I'll try to fix them in Wanda's favor. I'm going to have Kate go first.
So I mean, part of this is purely personal. Like I think I had the Wicked Witch of the West going all the way. And the fact that Elphaba is this like creation from the book that Gregory Maguire wrote, Wicked, and also the Schwartzman, Winnie Holzman musical Wicked, right? She is a complication of an icon of what it is to be a witch. And in a moment where it's like, it sort of like elevates what we think of witches to like the next level as incredibly complicated humans whose stories we don't fully know until we talk to them and hear it from them, right? I think that's just such a cool, important pop cultural project, right? And like, she's a tremendous character, and she does stand on the shoulders of the original Wicked Witch of the West, but she is of herself iconic. Defying Gravity is a banger. Like it just is like imagine, I mean, in terms of her powers, she has all the powers that the Wicked Witch of the West has. Yes, she is susceptible to water, but like she has a lot of other good qualities. Her accessories, she commands monkeys. She has the Grimmery. She has, and she has like a really interesting sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? She is on the side of justice and equity and right in a terribly corrupt Oz, right? And like that's such an interesting, fun, compelling story. I liked her, and not that Wanda Maximoff is like not interesting and compelling, but Elphaba's story and the way that Wicked works hits me in the guts in a way that like Wanda Maximoff doesn't. That said, I did really like WandaVision a lot.
You make some really good points, and what I feel is super compelling about Elphaba is the kind of element of historical witches, like in real life and in fiction, being misunderstood and having their stories corrupted and being
by those
oppressed
in
for
power.
them.
Yeah,
literally what makes Elphaba so special in this bracket. I think she kind of embodies that. My issue with Elphaba is that she is a derivative of another character that's already in the final 2.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
But that's literally my issue is right there. However, Wanda has something working against her, which is that while she is immensely powerful, and by the time the Infinity Saga ends in the MCU, it's basically established she is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if you read the comics, she's certainly one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel comics. She can literally rewrite reality and has done it several times. But her powers are not based in magic. She does use magic. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, she becomes kind of enchanted by the Darkhold at the end of WandaVision, and then it is very much empowering her in Doctor Strange 2. In the comics, she does study magic with Doctor Strange during the 80s and onwards, but her base powers are not magic. And I do think we need to like speak that and own it before we go on. But what makes Wanda so interesting, again, from like what makes her a special witch, is this idea of this immense power at her fingertips and the ability for it to corrupt her very, very quickly with disastrous results. And you see that in the comics and in the movies and TV series, where Wanda, without meaning to, creates an unbelievable amount of damage. Like she has literally, we talked about this in the Marvel villain episode, by the way, that's also out this season. Like Wanda has, this is not an exaggeration, committed actual genocide like more than once in the comics. And it's not because she's necessarily meaning to, it's almost like an afterthought or like a knee-jerk reaction. That's an incredible kind of character. Does that mean she's a strong character? I don't know. But having all of that power within one human being, and that human being exceedingly fallible, is a fascinating character. My only issue again is a lot of her power is not derived from magic. It's her mutant, depending on which origin you're using, or like the science experiments with the Infinity Gems, depending on the other origin. But it's not magic based. So with that being said, I'm going to go to Gary. Where are you on this one?
Oh, Eric, I loved your explanation for Wanda. Very, very good analysis, and I agree. Wanda all day.
Okay. Joelle, where are you on this one?
So my biggest factor every time is going to be how powerful and like well versed they are in magic. And so when it comes to that, for a big chunk of Elphaba's story, she's learning and she's growing. And I think Wanda is proven to just be out of the box incredibly powerful. So I'm going with Wanda.
So that's 3 for Wanda, 1 for Elphaba. Sorry about that, Kate.
That's okay. I got to stump for her.
You did. Awesome. And I will say this, Elphaba 100% has the better songs.
She does. She does.
Well, there are some good songs in WandaVision that cannot be denied.
There
are. But they aren't defying gravity. So that is it for round 1. We're going to take a quick break to check on our Black Cat familiars, and we will be right back after these messages. Welcome back to round 2 of our best pop culture witch debate. Before we get to round 2, let's remove our wigs and keep our eyes out for the little children as we share our social media handles. Gary, how can people follow you on social media?
Oh, you can follow me on IG, Instagram, at Gary Music Man J.
And Joelle?
You can certainly try to follow me on Twitter. I don't do a whole lot, but I'm at Joelle TB on Twitter. And if you want to follow my podcast, I'm at the Pocket Pod on all kinds of places where Pocket Pod podcasts, not Pocket Pods, podcasts are found.
And by the way, for those listening, Pocket Pod is an Animal Crossing podcast. Joelle, is there a witch Animal Crossing character?
There once was a cute little witchy witch, but now you could dress as a witch anytime you want because they have fun, cute little costumes and stuff. But we talk about all kinds of stuff these days. It's barely about Animal Crossing anymore.
Perfect. Great. And Kate, how about you?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at kateracculia.com. I don't do a ton there. And if you would like to see many posts of my furry little familiar friends, then I'm on Instagram at Gomez Rack. Yes, Gomez is the name of my cat. And yes, he is named after Gomez Adams.
Exactly, mi amor. All right. And so for me, you can follow me at Eric Rezsnyak on Instagram or Twitter. That's ERICREZ as in zebra, S as in snake, and as in Nancy, YIK. Or follow at Great Pop Culture Debate on Instagram and TikTok, or at culture_debate on Twitter. So moving on to round 2 of the debates, it's Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter universe up against the Wicked Witch of the West from the Wizard of Oz. Let's go around the horn. Joelle, where are you on this one?
Oh, I'm Hermione on this one. She's a powerful, smart, absolutely brilliant wizard that just knows how to do everything in every situation.
All right. Kate, where are you?
I am the Wicked Witch of the West.
Scandalo. Gary?
Hermione, I agree. I think she's calm, she's collected when she needs to be, and she's a leader, a natural born leader.
I would actually go with the Wicked Witch too, because I think she is more long-term iconic. It doesn't matter because Hermione's the ultimate number 1 seed for this entire bracket. So she is going to advance even with the tie.
I don't hate it. I
don't hate it. I will just make the point that I think in this moment in pop culture history, and this moment since the 2000s, like since the first book, Hermione probably is the most popular witch in the world, like, or well known.
Yeah.
But in terms of like American pop culture, I do think I would give the edge to the Wicked Witch of the West, but this is not necessarily strictly American, right? So I can't be mad about it. And Hermione will advance to the elite, well, actually the final 4. Next up, it's Maleficent versus Samantha Stevens. Let's start with Kate.
Wow. I mean, I love Samantha Stevens, but Maleficent She's
All
my
right,
girl.
Gary. Yep,
Oh,
Gary.
I originally was, debating for Maleficent, but I like what you guys said about just the story, the undertone story with Samantha. So Samantha.
You're changing it to Samantha. Fascinating.
I know.
Joelle.
Boy, oh boy, I was gonna go with Maleficent, and yeah, going back to what we talked about in the first round. She's so iconic, and oh man,
It's like you can see a line from the Wicked Witch of the West. That idea is complicated by Samantha Stevens, and then sort of like reaches like a height in Hermione, right? Yeah. Now I'm like coming back around. I'm
if
still
I
Maleficent.
think about which one of these characters did more to fight the patriarchy, I think Samantha Stevens did more to fight the patriarchy, whereas Maleficent kind of helped show, women are bad, right? Like,
yeah.
Samantha Stevens, I'm going with it.
Okay, well, that means Samantha would advance, and I'm not mad about that.
I'm not mad about it at all. I love it.
Yeah, I think obviously Maleficent is and we talked about it in the first round there, like how, I don't want to use the word iconic, but she is iconic, but immensely powerful, hilariously petty, like all of those things. But like Samantha Stevens has a real kind of gravitas to her that I don't think that when you were watching the show in the 1950s as like a housewife, you were necessarily meant to pick up on, but it is there. So
Yeah,
I think
fair.
that's really cool.
I love that like this side of the bracket are the good witches.
Yeah.
Right? It's
I
the
mean,
good
honestly, what's
witches.
happening here? This is like light versus dark, and I'm loving
is.
it.
I'm loving
I
it.
am
Speaking,
too.
let's go to the dark side with Agatha Harkness versus Morticia Addams. I'm going to start with Kate.
So I'm going to give this to Morticia, and I will say a few words about Morticia. I would not hate it if Agatha advanced on a technicality, because the big question is Morticia Addams a witch, or are we just conflating icon Angelica Houston with the Grand High Witch?
This is my problem. Is because she did not make the bracket, and that's crazy.
Yes,
The Grand High Witch.
Is she, well,
Yeah.
she made the 32. She did not make.
Child is no longer a child. Is a mouse.
She got ousted by Wanda, actually, if we're being, really upset about things.
So, like, if I look at my rubric, right, like, how iconic is Morticia Addams? Like, beyond Angelica Houston, unbelievably iconic, right? Like, Charles Addams comics, TV show, movies. Personally, it's impossible for me to overstate how influential the Addams Family movies were on my young childhood. I love those movies. They are fantastic. What about Debbie? But like, so she's very influential in our idea of sort of this like vamp, spooky lady character, right? Who's very self-contained and very like mysterious and compelling. But also like, what are her powers, right? She's a doting mother. She's a very supportive partner. And all around, just like she really owns her place in the world. She is the Dead Sea of Calm, the match to Gomez's like beautiful chaos. And can I use this opportunity to give one of the greatest tiny monologues in cinema ever, when they go to Wednesday and Pugsley's school for like there's like a drama performance, and her teacher Wednesday's
Thanksgiving play.
No, this isn't the first one. It's they're doing like a scene from Hamlet, I think, where they cut off each other's limbs and there's blood everywhere. But before, Wednesday's teacher is concerned because Wednesday has brought in this picture of a woman being burned at the stake for her, like, this is who I want to be. And Morticia goes, oh, Wednesday's great aunt Calpurnia. They say she danced naked in the town square and enslaved a minister. Don't worry, we've told Wednesday. College first. And like,
I love it.
So like, is she a witch? And like, does she have supernatural powers? We don't know. She might, she doesn't have time to commit herself to studying the dark arts as much as she would like. She's a modern woman. She's pulled in 1,000 directions. But if we think of witches as sort of relatively anything that threatens or complicates social norms or the status quo, then my God, yes, she is a witch.
Yeah, and I want to get to that in a second. I do want to find out, Gary, where are you on this one?
Oh, yeah.
Kate.
Wait,
College,
can you come back? Because like I was like processing it all.
So can I jump in on this? Because
Yeah.
Kate, what you've done just now is you've convinced me that Morticia Addams is a real world witch as opposed to like as opposed to like this whole time I've been like doing my research and I'm like, no, nowhere on the internet is she a witch. She's not a witch. She's just not a witch. She's not a witch. She's not a witch. She's not a witch. But no, you've actually convinced me that that's okay because she's a real world witch.
Exactly. And that was going to be my argument is like the average Wiccan, and I'm going to say this and watch, I'm going to get hexed. And I'm not trying to do that. But like generally, I don't know of like a lot of like spellcasters out there who are like summoning comets or whatever, right? But like, if even the story about Great Aunt Calpurnia is a wild woman dancing naked in the town square who enslaved a minister. Like
she descends from a Salem witch. If that's a thing, then that's like, a thing. That's it.
Exactly. So like she might not have like magical like pew pew powers, but like she is bucking patriarchy and more like one with darkness and nature. And I fully believe that is 100% a witch, in my opinion.
And she just like her and Gomez, God, I love them so much.
Oh, they are
goals.
They are couple goals right there.
Yeah. And like if you look at Grandmama, like Grandmama is the much more stereotypical version of a witch, right? Like she's hunched over, she's got the cauldron, she's got the thatch hair, you know, like throwing things into the cauldron. Like that's her mother. I absolutely believe it's like, you know, when you look at the trio, the trilogy, you've got your maid, your mother, your crone, and Morticia's the mother. So, so is that a vote for Morticia from you, Joelle?
I think it is. I was going all over the place, and I'm with you now.
All right, Gary, have you made a decision?
So as well, but it's the modern day witch because it made me think of. Again, going back to Marie Laveau, but Angela Bassett playing her in the Coven series, American Horror Story, and she was a hairdresser by day, a modern day witch. So, you know what? Yeah, okay. Thank you for changing my mind.
Oh, you're welcome. It's witchcraft.
You got to pay them bills somehow. And I mean, thankfully for Morticia, Gomez was very wise in his investments. He was. So, and they're not spending a lot of money keeping up that house.
No, more share.
More share. I'm also giving it to Morticia. Absolutely no offense to Agatha Harkness. I think Morticia is a more iconic witch, and it's a different type of witchcraft, but I'm 100% Morticia here. So she's going to the final four. Next, it's Ursula versus Wanda. I'm going to start with Gary.
Oh, I'm going to stick with Wanda just because her ability to create chaos. I think going off of power, I'm going to go off of realistically the power that Wanda has and possesses and the manipulation factor that she possessed over Ursula. Ursula has a tragic story, but so does Wanda. So, so Wanda.
They're both tragic.
Wanda.
Yeah. Joelle.
Ursula, 100%. The representation, the control that she has, the strength, the story that we know that backs her up, just the absolute chaos that she also creates. I just Sea Witch. She was the most terrifying character in my childhood. I would literally close my eyes for half of The Little Mermaid, and it was one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I always thought she was fabulous.
Yeah, her death is terrifying.
That is true. The death is really traumatic.
Yeah. So Wanda Maximoff is fantastic. WandaVision is wonderful, but like it's got to be Ursula. Poor Unfortunate Souls is one of the greatest musical songs ever to exist.
I'm also giving it to Ursula because even though Wanda is the Scarlet Witch, again, most of her power is not derived from magic. In Doctor Strange 2, she is using magic to become essentially a multiversal killing machine. Like she literally goes on a murder spree. She's just killing people left and right. It's brutal. And I find it really compelling. You were saying, Gary, like she's also a really tragic tale. Like her children are ripped away from her and she will do anything to get them back is really juicy. And I know a lot of people have issues with her characterization in that movie. I do not, as someone who's been reading her in comics for 40 years. Like, Wanda goes crazy and she kills people. It's what she does. Sorry, I know that she's your favorite Avenger, but like literally she has murdered numerous people for decades. And then she's like, oh, my bad. Like, let me save the universe a couple times and we're good again, right? We good? Yeah. We good.
She
we're
saved
good.
the world a lot.
We're good.
Destroyed the world. Yeah.
Right. He destroys the world. She saves the world. You know, it is what it is. But like, she's not, the magic is secondary to her powers to me. Ursula is a witch. She is a sea witch. She has the whole like, oh, sure, I'll use my magic to help you for a price, which I think is like an important witch stereotype. It's Ursula for me. So that's 3 to Ursula, 1 for Wanda, giving us a final 4 of Hermione Granger versus Samantha Stevens and Morticia Addams versus Ursula. I love it. Light on the left side, dark on the right.
Beautiful.
Hermione versus, actually, before we go to the final matchups, final 4 matchups in round 3, we're going to take another quick break to bone up on the Darkhold. We will be right back.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Thanks so much for listening to the Great Pop Culture Debate. We sincerely hope you're getting a kick out of our content. We love making it for you. If you love it too, please consider becoming one of our Patreons. The funds we receive from our patrons help us to continue making top-notch content, like the amazing episode you're enjoying. With donation levels for every pocketbook size, you could support us for as little as $5 a month. At that level, you unlock Patreon-exclusive content that includes warm-up sessions with a ton of hilarious content for Patreon ears only. That's basically a cup of coffee these days. So how about it? Buy us a cup of coffee and we'll keep the debates rolling. Head over to www.patreon.com/greatpopculturedebate and sign up today. And remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion.
Boo! We're back with round 3 of our best pop culture witch debate. Let's look at that final 4. It's Hermione Granger versus Samantha Stevens, Morticia Addams versus Ursula the Sea Witch. We were just saying over the break, we think this is a fabulous final 4. There's not one particular kind of pop culture area that's overrepresented. We have people from the 2000s, the 80s, the 60s, the Addams Family was the 50s, yeah?
I think so, yeah. I can figure out when they were started showing up because they were in the New Yorker. Yeah, that he was the cartoonist.
A wonderful mix of decades here. I think it's just fabulous. So let's get into these tier debates. More on the light side of the bracket, we have Hermione Granger versus Samantha Stevens. Joelle Boedecker, where are you going?
I think I'm going with Samantha Stevens over Hermione. I just think I have to go with history and, I think Hermione is a character that is almost like, not that she's based off of Samantha Stevens, but I do think that there's some witch history rooted in the existence of Samantha Stevens. And so I feel like I need to go with Samantha Stevens.
Gary Jackson, where are you on this one?
Oh, I'm going with Hermione because Samantha walks so Hermione could beat the living crap out of evil people, and she's good at it. And so I'm all about it, Hermione.
Gary, I love it.
Kate.
I am going to stall for time by saying that in the spirit of the chaos and the upsetting the status quo of witchcraft, perhaps these 4 witches could just like have like a kiki.
A coven. These are a coven right here.
Like this is a coven. I feel like Ursula could like have a little like she's like B. Arthur behind the bar in the Star Wars Christmas special. Like that's that energy.
And she'll master the sea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm getting Golden Girls, ladies. I'm getting Morticia is Blanche. Yes! I'm getting Rose is Samantha. I don't know who would Hermione be B. Arthur? And Ursula would be Sophia.
I think Ursula is B. Arthur. I think Hermione is Sophia.
Maybe.
Because she's the one who's always like, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, that's true. Leviosa.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, so I stalled. I gotta give it to Samantha Stevens.
Okay. Can someone check for me which what seed Samantha is? Because Hermione is the
she's
ultimate.
not a 1 seed. So Hermione's a 1 seed. Yeah.
Hermione is a 1 seed.
Samantha was lower down. She was a 6 seed.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. But I will say this. I think there's recency bias with Hermione for sure. I agree with Gary's point that Samantha walked so that Hermione could get on a broom and play Quidditch.
Hermione would never play Quidditch. Come
It's
on.
true. She has no time for that.
Yeah.
She has no time for
She
that.
hates Quidditch immensely.
So you have Hermione, who is like
That was
the
my
most
Hermione moment right there. Sorry.
no, you're right. The most promising witch of her generation, who is a mudblood. I think that's also an important part of
Yes.
Hermione's character we have not yet
It's
discussed.
a huge
Is
part of her story. Yeah.
she doesn't come from magic the way that Samantha does. Like Samantha's born into
we haven't
it.
really talked about Hermione. Keep
Yeah.
talking, Eric. Yeah.
That was actually a huge part of several of these stories. McGonagall also was, I learned, not a pure blood. Actually,
Yeah.
I learned that.
So Hermione Samantha was born into it. Hermione had to work, and she worked harder than anybody. And she became one of the most promising wizards of her generation based strictly, I mean, obviously natural aptitude, but nobody worked harder. I mean, sisters out there with the time turner, like doubling up, taking her regular classes and going to ITT Tech at night. Like, or I guess it would be University of Phoenix, which is a little on the nose.
And she rose all the way to Minister of Magic as a mudblood. And I don't know how many mudbloods. And sorry, half blood. We don't say mudblood. That is
We don't do that. That's the deeply offensive term. So
I'm coming
that
around.
does make her very compelling. Samantha has the historical importance. She is one of our first most successful pop culture witches. There is a lot of backstory and cultural kind of counterculture stuff attached to her now, but at the time that the show was on, that wasn't necessarily the text.
Yeah, it was subtext.
Whereas with Hermione, it's not just the text, it's the highlighted text. Like all of this stuff is germane to her character. It's baked in. So I actually think I've talked myself into voting for Hermione here, which at the very least would make it a tie.
Yeah.
And as the ultimate number one seed, Hermione would advance.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. Yeah, I don't hate it.
Okay. So Hermione makes it to the final two. In the bad girls version of the bracket, we have Morticia Addams versus Ursula the Sea Witch. I'm going to start with Kate.
I mean, I love Morticia. Oh God, this is tearing. You're tearing me apart, Lisa. Oh God. Witch, I have to give it to Ursula because yes, Ursula is more of a witch than Morticia is.
Joelle.
I don't think I need to say much more about my feelings on Ursula, so it's Ursula.
Gary.
Ursula.
Clean sweep for Ursula. Love Morticia Addams. And we didn't actually mention the Wednesday show coming out. Kate, you were like, are everybody associating Morticia just with Angelica Houston?
Yeah.
Morticia has now been played by, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember the name of the actress from the original TV show. I'm a terrible person.
It's
not Yvonne DiCarlo,
It's not
is it?
Yvonne DiCarlo. I think that she's Lily Munster.
She's the Munsters.
Yeah, let me figure that out.
Also not
but you have Morticia for sure. Angelica Houston. You have Charlize Theron doing her voice in the animated films. Daryl Hannah played Morticia in the made-for-TV or the straight-to-DVD ones. Now you have Catherine Zeta-Jones playing Morticia in the Wednesday series.
Yeah.
Like, she actually has a lot of different interpretations, and like the ones I've sampled so far, they're all solid.
Yeah.
So it's not just her.
She's been portrayed by Carolyn Jones in the TV show, Angelica Houston, Daryl Hannah in Addams Family Reunion, Ellie Harvey in the new Addams Family, Bebe Neuwirth and Brooke Shields in the musicals, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, amazing. But I'm giving it to Ursula. So we have a final two of Hermione Granger versus Ursula the Sea Witch. I'm going to start. We're going to go alphabetically. Gary, who wins?
Hermione.
Okay.
Really?
Joelle.
I'm surprised, Gary, you who sticks to the dark side. I'm very surprised by that. Not that I'm trying to flip your vote or anything. I'm going with Ursula 100%.
Kate.
God, I have to give it to Ursula.
interesting, I'm also giving it to Hermione. And so, I love Ursula. I have been ride or die with her on multiple episodes of this podcast thus far. Disney villains, certainly. I'm sure there's at least one or two other ones that I've stumped for Ursula very hard. But as important as Ursula is, she is the villain in her piece, even if she's misunderstood.
That girl had a contract, Eric. That girl.
She did.
They all had contracts, binding contracts.
As Bob pointed out, Ariel was a minor and therefore is not actually legally liable for said contract. It is not legally binding, although I don't know what maritime law is. But
not only maritime law, but like
under sea law.
Maritime law. It's a whole other game.
But she's like the antagonist. She's a great witch icon. But if we're talking about which one's the best character, like she's a saucy diva with 8 arms to love you. Hermione,
technically.
Technically, thank you. Hermione is a hard worker. She is brilliant. She is all of the best things about the wizarding world, and exemplifies what a witch can be, which is not just the stereotypes, right? It is the kind of the bright future for witchdom. And for that reason, I'm giving to her, not just because she's the ultimate number 1 seed. I actually don't usually factor that into consideration for the final matchup. But I do think in terms of a character who is resonating with pop culture now and probably into the future, it's Hermione over Ursula. As a fact, I went to the Harry Potter store in New York for the first time over the weekend. And I was like, I wonder if this is going to still be busy given all of the hoopla surrounding not just Rowling, but like nobody's watching those
Fantastic
Magic Beasts.
Yeah.
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching those. I was like, I wonder if this fandom is going to be dying. Listen to me, ladies. It is not.
It's not.
The lines were wrapped around the registers to this day. Say what you will. I feel like that fandom is bulletproof, even to like the writer and architect being outed as a turf of like the worst magnitude. And like
all of my millennial parent friends, their children are just like lapping up Harry Potter books right now. It's still a time. They're just getting them from the library. They're just not buying the books.
Yeah. And it's like the magic and wonder of not just magic, but of reading and of film, right?
Yeah, the movies are good.
It's metatextual, whereas Ursula is Ursula and she's amazing at what she does. But I feel like Hermione is the best exemplification, even more than Harry. Like, frankly, I don't care about Harry.
Harry is a whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
Y'all, imagine if
Harry's pretty
Hermione
milquetoast.
decided to go bad. Who can stop her?
Right. No one's going to
no one
stop
can
her.
stop her.
She's the Wanda Maximoff of the Harry Potter universe if she wants to be. So does that help to sway either of our Team Ursula folks?
I mean, I will never hate Hermione Granger in any way. She shaped a generation of young girls to feel empowered, and I think that's wonderful. I would love to see Ursula win something, and I think I will stand there proudly defending Ursula. But no, I'm not going to hate Hermione winning. That's okay.
Kate?
So can I stand on Ursula in principle and Hermione still win? I'm such a coward.
I'm right there standing next to you, Kate. We're just gonna hold that staff.
It feels very like the greatest, best pop culture witch, and I don't know if that's like my Harry Potter got to me when I was in my 20s, right? And so I can't tell where she has incredible accessories. She's got a friggin' time turner. She has Crookshanks. The scene in the third movie where she punches Draco in the face is so delicious.
She has that idiot Ron. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I have nothing against Ron.
She's got that orange tabby, She allowed young girls to raise their hand in class, right?
She is like a badass smarty pants.
Yeah.
And I will switch for Hermione.
And she's the reason Harry didn't die like 50
times.
So.
Exactly.
Like, she's the reason it's actually called Harry Potter and the, because it could just be like crossing like actually Hermione and the.
Right. Who carried this on their back?
Right. And like, here's the thing, like, again, if we're talking about witches outside of like pop culture, and we're talking about witches being very bright women who are slightly off from society, who know things, who are smart and trying to like lead from the outside, kind of like shaman. That's Hermione, right? Like that, she's kind of encapsulating that too.
And actually, let's be honest, Hermione never would have signed that contract. She would have read the fine print.
She would have.
Exactly.
She would have. She would have been like,
Exactly.
my lawyer needs to see this before I sign this.
Exactly.
No, she is the lawyer. She actually went.
Oh, that's
and
true.
became- yeah.
That's right.
This is not related to the outcome of this, but I just wanted to say that Morticia Adams' maiden name is Frump, which I just found out.
No.
Also, those
That is
cartoons
amazing.
go back to the 30s in the New Yorker.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
So it's
Anyway.
almost 100 years old now.
Yeah.
But with that being said, with a 3-1 vote, our pick for the best pop culture witch of all time is Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter universe. Do you agree with our choice? Do you think that we've spent too much time sipping from our cauldrons? Let us know by leaving a comment on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or yell at us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. While you're there, make sure you like and subscribe for more great pop culture debate content. And if you really liked what you heard, please consider supporting us on Patreon, which can get you access to more exclusive episodes, merch, and the ability to suggest episodes for us to do in the future. Thank you to my panelists. You are the magic in my life. And thank you for listening. Until next time, remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinions.